Hey guys, D-Pad Danny here with a very special video. You know it's special because I'm standing. Now, as you may know, I recently hit 100 subscribers and I mentioned that there would be a special milestone video. This is that video. This is D-Pad Danny's top 10 games to pick up and play. Now, what is a pick up and play game? Say you want to play something but you don't want to get anything heavy, or you're planning on playing an RPG but you want to start off with something a little bit easier to swallow. A couple ground rules before we start. Rule number 1, a maximum of 2 games for any given system. I wanted to keep this varied, and if I didn't set that standard on it, it would be 90% NES. So for the sake of variety, 2 games per console. Rule number 2, no emulation. As in all my other videos, I will only be covering games I own. Rule number 3, this is strictly my opinion. I'm sure there'll be games in here that maybe some of you won't really agree with. The internet is full of opinions, and this is mine. Let's get started with D-Pad Danny's top 10 games to pick up and play. Cosmic Arc is a great game for the Atari 2600 by Imagic. Like most games from that era, the concept is easy to pick up. You play as the Cosmic Arc and you need to pick up various creatures from different planets. You start in deep space shooting asteroids that will collide into you otherwise. Afterwards, you descend into the planet's atmosphere. Dispatching your smaller ship, you use a tractor beam to obtain the creatures. After they're in your possession, you move on to more deep space and another planet. There are defense towers that will create energy fields in an attempt to prevent you from scooping up the critters. These get increasingly aggressive the more planets you visit. If you take too long chasing down the creatures, your main ship's alarm system will sound off, indicating an incoming asteroid. You then have to make your way back to the ship to blast it away. This fun and frantic gameplay epitomizes what the 2600 is known for, and Cosmic Arc is well deserving of being included on this list. Solar Striker is a fun little vertical shooter for the Game Boy by Nintendo. It doesn't get much more basic than this, but it's surprisingly enjoyable. The music is pretty good for what it is, even if some of the levels share the same tunes. Enemies are nice and varied, presenting a decent variety of ships. It's fun to get to know the different movement and shooting patterns they have. The graphics are standard for the Game Boy, and there isn't really anything here that will dazzle you. You can power up your gun a few times to shoot a twin shot, triple shot, and a plasma style gun. Though it's somewhat basic, I still really enjoy playing this one, and the action in later levels can get a lot more hectic than you might think. Definitely worth your time and the spot on this list. Splatterhouse is the TurboGrafx 16 port of the arcade action game by Namco. Jessica has gone missing in this spooky house, and it's up to Rick using the powers of the Terror Mask to save her. This game is not for the squeamish, featuring lots of nasty ghoulies and monsters. I really like the graphics personally. Everything has a really grotesque kind of look to it. At its core, Splatterhouse plays like a beat-em-up. Rick takes down enemies with sheer strength by punching and kicking, but can also pick up weapons along the way. These weapons include a 2x4, a cleaver, and a shotgun, to name a few. Some of the end stage segments are pretty cool, like this room full of nastiness where these carnivorous worms jump out at you with a thirst for blood, or the poltergeist room that has you fighting possessed chairs. The horror vibe in this game is really great, and it's worth playing over and over. Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse is a great platformer for the Sega Genesis. As the title indicates, you play as Mickey, who's on a quest to save Minnie. Mickey can jump and do a butt bounce on his enemies. You can also collect projectiles that he can use to dispatch baddies at a distance. This game is super charming and is seen by many as one of the best Disney games ever made. As far as I'm concerned, it's really fun. I don't know if it's the best, but it's still highly enjoyable. Mickey travels through multiple rooms in the castle, which kind of serves as a hub world. Each room is filled with a different themed area. Who knew all this was in a single building? The mortgage must be through the roof. The game features really nice looking visuals, especially for an early game for the system, and there's some catchy tunes here that you may find stuck in your head long after playing. I like to pull this one down off the shelf frequently for some good clean fun. If you've seen my non-space shooter video, then you'll know I enjoy Dragon Spirit. This vertical shooter on the TurboGrafx 16 is a whole lot of fun. I've always enjoyed shooters that provide a unique theme, and playing as dragons is definitely an awesome change of pace. This is one of those shooters where you have an aerial shot and a ground shot. Your dragon can get power-ups that will give you up to 3 heads and change the nature of your projectile. I really like this one that swirls around the screen, absolutely decimating everything in your path. The graphics in this game are really appealing, using good use of colors and blending. The music is also really enjoyable as well. I love the Stage 1 theme that you're listening to currently. There's a really good variety of enemies here, each with their own style and pattern. The bosses are fierce and just plain fun to fight. This one is pretty challenging though. Even though I still can't get past the 3rd level, I pop it in frequently and enjoy it every time. Super Punch-Out for the Super Nintendo is a great follow-up to the original. In fact, I think I prefer this one overall to the NES installment. The colors are great, the music is catchy, and the gameplay is better than ever. Naturally, you play as Little Mac, who apparently has bleached his hair since his last boxing endeavor. The basic premise is to dodge your opponent's blows and dish out some pain when they leave themselves open. It's not just as simple as that though, as each opponent has their own tells that you'll need to learn to be able to anticipate their moves. The rival fighters are all well drawn and full of personality. Some of them are really silly. There are 4 different circuits to fight through, each more difficult than the last. You need to be careful as some of your opponents will flat out cheat, like the masked muscle here that spits in your face, impairing your vision. Not cool, dude. Pound for pound, this is a great entry into the Super Nintendo library. Space Harrier is a Sega arcade classic released on various systems. This is the 32X version here, which is honestly one of the best games on the system. This fast-paced shooter has you traversing strange and super colorful worlds blasting down anything in sight. The first time I played this game, I was stunned at how smooth everything moved, which really helps in a game like this. Don't think the game is easy though. Sometimes you'll get hit with one thing while dodging another, and you'll feel like you constantly need to be on the move. In addition to shooting down enemies while avoiding their projectiles, you'll find yourself weaving around trees, pylons, and other obstacles throughout the stages. At the end of each stage, naturally, there's a boss. Then it's on to the next location for more fast-paced action. Though this game can provide some moderate difficulty, the bright visuals, upbeat music, and super enjoyable gameplay will make you want to try again and again. Final Fantasy is not a game you can pick up and play. No, the installment on this list is Theatrhythm Final Fantasy for the 3DS. I've always been a big fan of the Final Fantasy games, and this is in no small part due to the fantastic music. When I heard there was a rhythm and music game being made based on the songs from the series, I was absolutely intrigued. I got it, and man, I'm glad I did. There's tons of selections from throughout the series. There's multiple modes that feature overworld music, battle music, and music from pivotal parts of the story. Honestly, I find it pretty amazing that the 3DS can handle cutscenes from as late in the series as Final Fantasy XIII with no trouble, and they look just great. You can have a great time tapping, holding, and swiping the stylus to the beat regardless of your skill level since the game has multiple difficulties. You can form a party with characters from your favorite games and level them up by completing songs and challenges. There's so many great tunes included, and there's a shop where you can buy even more. I really enjoy this game, and if you like Final Fantasy or the rhythm and music genre, you'll like it too. Tetris. This one seems like a no-brainer. The classic Soviet puzzle game has been ported to literally almost every system and is probably the most well-known video game of all time. My favorite version is naturally the one published by Nintendo for the NES. You rotate your pieces and place them at the bottom of the play area. Filling in a line horizontally clears that line. Ideally, you want to set it up to where you can clear 4 lines at a time, which will cause the screen to flash and will give you big points. After so many points, you will go up a level and the color scheme of the pieces will change. Each level makes the pieces fall faster and faster. If the pieces build up to the top, it's game over. There's 3 different choices of music here, and everyone seems to like selections A and B. I feel like I'm the only one that prefers the C music, so that's what you're getting here. This is truly a great version of a time-honored classic. So far, some really solid games that are just perfect for a quick play session. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you I had a really tough time narrowing down this list, just because there's so many fantastic games to choose from. Before we get to number 1, let's take a look at a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Galaga is a great single-screen shooter for the NES by Namco based on the classic arcade game. It doesn't get much more simpler than this, but I feel like this one excels in its simplicity. Different enemies with increasingly aggressive flying patterns fill the screen. Clear them all and it's on to the next stage. Every few levels you'll get to a bonus stage to rack up some extra points. This is a good one to warm up your reflexes to start the night off, and is often my go-to choice when I've had a few beers. Super Mario World needs little explanation. This action platformer is the quintessential 2D Mario game as far as I'm concerned. It added more power-ups, an expansive world map, levels with multiple exits, and a crazy amount of secrets just waiting to be discovered. Beautiful bright graphics and great music round out this great Super Nintendo game. This one didn't quite make the cut because though it can be considered a pick-up-and-play style game, I tend to have trouble putting it down afterwards, and before I know it, hours have gone by. Truly a wonderful experience. Gauntlet for the NES. Man, I enjoy some Gauntlet. It's dungeon crawling at its best. Multiple levels filled with baddies and treasure, only fit for the bravest of adventurers lie within. Your health ticks down constantly as you play, adding a sense of urgency to your exploration. Do you try to get every last bit of treasure, or do you try to rush towards the exit to get out quickly? It's absolutely up to you. This game has great memorable music and a 2-player mode that's lots of fun. Alright, it's on to number 1. D-Pad Danny's number 1 game to pick up and play is... Bump and Jump. I love Bump and Jump on the NES, and I don't care who knows it. This fun little arcade-style game is a hybrid of sorts. It's half racing, half action, and all fun. Your main squeeze is kidnapped, and you need to chase down the culprit. You need to get there fast, and there's all these cars blocking your path. The only logical course of action is to destroy as many of them as possible. Your car can jump. That's right, jump into the air and come crashing down on your fellow motorists. This is so damn satisfying. The objective of each level is to make it to the finish line. Pretty simple. Along the way there will be jumps you need to make. When you see that exclamation point pop up, you know you better get ready. It may seem simple, but this game symbolizes the absolute essence of this list and is the definition of a pick-up-and-play style game. And there you have it. Those are my top 10 games to pick up and play. Guys, if you have an opinion on the matter, I would love to hear what your top 10s are. Throw them at me. I want to hear what you have to say. This was a really fun video to make, and I hope it was half as much fun to watch. Guys, as always, thank you so much for the support and helping me get to this 100 subscriber milestone. I'm D-Pad Danny. I will see you next time.